Hey, welcome back into the podcast. So today we're talking about one of the top issues facing a lot of our clients here in Northern Nevada, which is downsizing. A lot of questions about it, so we brought the pro in. Her name's Elena Boland with Wholesale Mortgage. How you doing?
Hi, good.
Her and I do a lot of these. It's one of our big things that we do in our business. Help people sell, downsize, and then go find a house that they can retire in. So we're going to talk about that a lot today. Go through all the steps. I think we have here 8 different steps. It's going to be one of the most thorough videos you have. Feel free to look down in the comments below or the section below. We have it all broken out by topic, so you can kind of skip some topics that you're not too interested in, but focus in on the ones that help you the most. And most of all, please like our videos, subscribe, and pass this along to someone out there that could use it. So let's get started.
Okay.
So the first step, and the most important step that we recommend to our clients, is perform a self-assessment. So Elena, what is your opinion about that, or what do you recommend someone out there that has come to a point in their life where they're like, I'm ready to downsize?
You just have to, for me, I would think, picture yourself leaving the house and never coming back. For a lot of people, that's a big emotional step. So you just have to really decide if you're ready.
Yeah, so top 5 reasons why people downsize. Number 1 is retirement.
Yeah.
People come to a point in their life where they're like, well, we don't need a size house and we're ready to go out. So that would be the top one. Second one that we come across a lot is people who, financially speaking, are, have reduced income, need to reduce their footprint and get into a place that's more reasonable. Number 3 is empty nesters.
Right.
So a lot of people get to a point in life where the kids are out of the house, they've moved on, and now they're looking at maybe traveling, maybe finding a community where they can lock it up and leave it and move on to that point. And then the 4th reason is, people get to a point where they don't want to take care of the yard.
Yeah.
They have rooms they close off, so the size of the house becomes too much. Anything on that?
Maintenance, just your outdoor maintenance. When I bought my first home, I was 28, and I could do a lot of yard work myself. Now I'm 44, and it's tough. It can get to be a lot, and sometimes that makes you rethink the property that you purchased.
And then the 5th reason is, we see it a lot, is a lot of people have 2 or 3 stories.
Right.
And they get a little older, get to a point, not just the financial burden, the burden of taking care of it, but the physical burden.
Absolutely.
And getting up and downstairs. So we have a lot of people that we work with that just say, hey, I need a single story. So
Agreed.
those are some of the top reasons why you're watching this video. You probably fall into one of those categories. So step 2 for downsizing is assemble your team of advisors. So what are your thoughts on that?
It's definitely a real big step to make sure you're vetting whatever groups of advisors that you're looking to use. Sometimes you feel comfortable in conversation 1, and that's okay. That might be where you stop, but anytime you don't feel comfortable, just know there's a lot of options out there for you.
Okay, so I kind of put together a quick list. I'm kind of biased because I'm a realtor. I think that you should absolutely find and interview several realtors. Find out how many of these they've done. I like starting with a realtor, particularly with our team, is because we have all the people that you need to use.
Right.
And typically, if you have a good real estate team or a good realtor out there, they are the quarterback. They're gonna come in, help you, first of all, figure out if you're ready, and then move into, all right, here are the people you need, here you need to talk to. And what a realtor should be helping you do is, who do you know, who do you like, and then fill in the professionals around you that you're missing.
Yeah.
So
that way you don't feel alone in all of that. It's very overwhelming.
Yep. So I have realtor. I think that's the number 1. I think you need a good attorney.
Yes.
Consider having a family trust. When you downsize, there's a lot of things you need to think about. Oftentimes when you're downsizing, things have changed in your family. Someone's passed. There's a lot of things that an attorney that can help you figure that out. The 3rd person is a mortgage broker. So hopefully you're in a situation where you're 100% equity owner, meaning that you own your house outright, maybe up in Saddlehorn or wherever you're going to be off the Mount Rose Highway or wherever in Reno. and you can simply sell that house and move. But what we're finding is that's not always the case.
Right.
So there are situations, correct, that you deal with where people still own a mortgage.
Yep.
So you absolutely need to have someone like Elena. Oftentimes we find a lot of our clients are house poor.
Yes.
So quickly kind of go into what that means is that they have all their equity in their house and
And no other assets.
right. Or they have it stuck in retirement. So you need to get a short-term loan or some kind of loan option or a bridge loan, and we'll talk about all those in a second. So mortgage broker is number 3. We don't want you to also forget out on number 4, which is a CPA or an accountant.
Yeah.
Critical. There's lots of tax ramifications when you're selling, particularly if you own the house for 25, 30 years.
Yeah.
It's called appreciation, and the laws are always changing, especially when we're moving into move administrations or move on. Tax law changes every year.
Yes, important to check in on.
So you got to have a CPA looking over your back and making sure, all right, if you sell this, what are the gains, what are the losses, what you can do to minimize that. And there's a lot of tax strategies that go in that. So the 5th person I recommend is a financial advisor. They should be working with your accountant and attorney, looking at what your income is, what you can afford. So financial advisor is another one. We talk about this in podcasts all the time. Make sure you have a good insurance agent, because you're ultimately going to need to insure a property that you're moving into.
Right.
And we're experiencing a lot in this day and age of insurance companies dropping a lot of people.
Right.
So you want to make sure that you're have a good insurance agent. The 5th one, probably one of the most, or actually the 7th one, but probably one of the most important ones, and Elena knows this, she actually uses them occasionally, is a professional organizer.
Yeah.
How can a professional organizer help you?
They save your life.
Right.
I'm joking, of course, but it just helps you with the emotional part of purging things. They're really logical, and it just kind of helps everything stay tidy so that when you start to actually pack up and move, it feels a lot more seamless.
So, yeah, and then the biggest thing is you can kind of start to see throughout this video is don't start downsizing and think you're going to do it in a month or 2.
No.
It's a huge
It is.
effort. A lot of steps go into it. I mean, a lot more people are organized than others, but we do find if you lived in a house for over 30 years, a professional organizer helps you thin stuff out, get rid of memories, keep memories, and get it in order so that you can make a move ultimately. All right, so we're talking about downsizing here. 8 steps to downsizing, and step number 3 here is determining the value of your existing house. So why is that important, Elena?
You want to know how much you've got left to spend on that next purchase.
Right. So you got to understand the current value of your house, and then you're going to have someone help you determine what it costs to sell,
Right.
minus all your expenses, mortgages, improvements that you're going to make. So ultimately, you got to figure out what the value you think you're going to sell at, but then you got to subtract off all the costs associated with selling. Do you have an estimate on what approximate closing costs are for a seller? I know it's negotiable and all this stuff, but a range?
Yeah, we usually tell everybody it's going to be between 6 and 8% in total, just based on our market's standard splits.
Right. So obviously that's negotiable, but you want to be on the conservative side. So if you have $1 million house, you're talking $60,000 to $80,000 just in costs associated with the sale.
Right.
And then if you have a mortgage, you're going to subtract that off.
Right.
So the first step would obviously, you have 2 options to figure out the value of your house. You can get your realtor to perform what's called a broker price opinion, or you can hire an appraiser. What we recommend is, kind of depends on what neighborhood you live in, how old your house is. If you have had a spouse pass away or some kind of death with someone that owns it, it's best to get an appraiser to do it. What we recommend is, because you're going to need, for some tax purposes, a certain price and when they pass, but you can also have a appraiser tell you what the cost is today and when that death happened.
Right.
So that's one option. It kind of depends on your circumstance. It is cheaper to have your realtor do it. At that point, it's just kind of like a regular sale. But it really depends on if your house is custom, what neighborhood, because it can vary a lot.
Yeah, and important to know too, that when you do sell your home, the buyer of your home cannot use that appraiser. They have to hire their own.
Right. So you can't use that number. I mean, it's a good thing to list your price, but
Yeah.
if they're getting a mortgage, they're probably gonna have to get a separate.
Right.
But if they're paying cash, that's a different story.
Correct.
You can share that with them, but at your own risk. So once you determine the price, you contact a title company. A title company can add in, basically we tell them what a traditional split is in the market currently, and then they'll spit out a number, your net. The net is what you're gonna take. Now, the next thing I have written down here is understand your cost basis and tax consequences. Any input on that?
I mean, primarily what we've covered, just the potential for capital gains, etc. But to touch back on the title company as well, a lot of times your agent will help handle that part for you, but that's really important. We've seen some sales recently where there were liens on the house that the seller was not aware of for a roof, for solar, so it's a big important step to check over thoroughly and make sure you know what is owed against your property.
Yes, and the title company can actually do what's called a preliminary title report, which there's no cost to you. If you do that, they do want you to use them as the title company when you sell, but it does bring up roofs or any weird things that are out there since you bought it. And some people, if you've owned your house for 40 years, this stuff does pop up occasionally. So once you're done figuring out what your total net is, talk to your CPA. We recommend you talk to your financial advisor. Because now we're getting into, all right, tax person, we have $800,000 house, we're gonna pay $100,000 in taxes, so we have $700,000 to buy a house. And then that's where it starts getting, you gotta start talking to all your other advisors to figure out what kind of house you can afford.
Yeah, they'll talk to you about different strategies, how much mortgage you should take out, if any. And sometimes they recommend that you take out a mortgage for tax strategies. So all those things are important to cover, and each rule definitely has its purpose.
Yeah, so, all right. So we're talking about best way to downsize here. We're talking about step number 4 out of 8. And step number 4 is, what's your budget for your new house and what type of lifestyle you're looking for?
Right, huge.
You want to opine on that? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I have opinions on that for sure. I know a big, well, I wouldn't say big, but a popular idea for a lot of people downsizing are condos. I just tell everybody, be aware of the costs associated with condos, because the HOAs can arbitrarily change the cost of your monthly HOA fees. And sometimes it might pencil out to just hire a gardener and buy a single family home versus a high cost HOA that is a little more of a gamble. So it's just definitely something to explore and look at.
That's an excellent point. We own some rentals that are in condominiums, and the HOA fees are going up.
Yes.
Everyone's getting paid more, and when there's a problem, or if there's a new roof or something, or their reserve falls below a certain amount, they increase it. So that is something to watch out for our condos or in an expensive HOA.
Yeah.
So the things we have written down for your budget, things to consider off our list for step number 4, new house versus old. Why should you consider that?
Property taxes, number 1 reason to check that out. There's give and take on new versus resale, but Nevada property taxes operate on depreciation. So you want to look at how much taxes you're going to be paying on a new home versus a resale, and it can mean thousands of dollars out of your pocket every year. The second thing about that too, though, is maintenance. Again, with the give and take part of that, you might have less maintenance on a new build where you have more on a resale. So something to look at and consider. So
the best thing to do is hop in your car with your realtor, drive around. Make sure your realtor is on point with pointing out issues that they can see. Obviously, it's not a full assessment of the house, so I get a home inspection, but have them point out things that could be. Biggest thing you should be looking for, in my opinion, is the age of the HVAC system, which can run 20,000 to 30,000, and roofs.
Yes, biggies.
Especially if it's tile roof. Everyone thinks tile roofs are good for 50 years, but it's actually not the case.
Right.
Because the felt underneath, with our weather here, shrinks, and now you have leaks, and it's not easy. It's
very pretty to look at, but not the most functional.
So, new versus old, property taxes are huge. You get a little less property tax, but you're gonna have more improvements. Location. So where do you want to live? I know a lot of our people want to live next to their kids.
Right.
We've helped several people. We had one couple that their only mission was to pay off their house and buy a new house with a particular builder and not have any future mortgage payments. So your circumstance is going to kind of dictate where you're going to live.
Yeah.
Location.
Yeah, and looking at your new HOA as well, got a good note on here about that. That's just as important as your property taxes. Even when you're buying a single family home, check out the HOA and what they do for you.
Okay, and then just to follow up about property taxes, if you want to know about how the property taxes in the state of Nevada is one of the most complex calculations known to man, we talked to the assessor. I'll put a video up there. Take a look at that video. He lays it out. In December, around that time, every year they send out a notice called the assessment notice. Take a look at that. Make sure that your information is correct.
Yep.
So, a few things more under step 4 we have for you. So this is really thorough. So, do you have to sell your existing house to afford a new home?
Yeah, I see that as a panic point for a lot of people because they think that they're going to be homeless for a point in time. And there's a lot of strategies that make it so that is not true for you and your circumstances, but that's where you use your team to check into all your options.
Yeah, so that's why you have to have a mortgage broker. I mean, if you have lots of cash sitting around, not everyone does, then you can buy a house and then sell. But in a lot of our clients' situations is they're house poor. They bought this house 20 years ago or 30, 40 years ago for $200,000. We have someone at the lake that bought in the 90s, it's worth $2 million. He bought it for $200,000. He has a mortgage on it. So those are all things that you have to consider. And then, determine if you have to sell before you move. And then there's a whole circumstance where you have to do contingent sales upon finding new ones, which can definitely be stressful. And you definitely need to have a realtor that has done those before because there's a lot of different language you need in there to make sure that happens. But it is possible.
Absolutely.
We do it all the time. But it just has to be structured right.
Yeah.
Do you need a mortgage on your new house? So I know you have something to say about that.
Well, it's just important to look at, of course, if you're going to need one, what kind is going to best fit your immediate situation and your long-term situation.
Yeah, because there's different strategies, and this is why you got to talk to your accountant and your CPA. Some people pull out from retirement.
Yeah.
Some people do a 15-year note, 30-year note. There's all kinds of different things. You can ask for owner finance. So there's a whole bunch of different options if you're in that situation where you need a small mortgage or something like that.
Yes.
So take a look at that. Talking about options for equity. Just kind of goes right into it. Contingent sales, discover options for homeowners with substantially equity tied up in their house. So that's a contingent sale we talked about. One of the big things that we can also do, that's why we bring her in, is different options to bridge the time that you have to sell to move. And some of those are bridge loans, HELOCs, learn about all the different alternatives out there. I don't know if we want to go into any of those specifically, but what's a HELOC stand for?
Home equity line of credit.
So when would you use that?
Anytime you need to access your equity and you don't want to touch a first mortgage that you've got a good rate on, that's definitely the best option. A bridge loan, the same idea, but it's typically a fixed rate. It just comes with high fees and a shorter term on it. You can't keep a HELOC long term. Or I'm sorry, a bridge loan long term. As to our HELOC, you can.
Yeah, so a bridge loan is simply when you get a loan, you put it on that, and then you sell your house and pay it off, correct?
Yep.
I mean, essentially that's it.
You
But
want
they're
six months or less on those.
right. So that gives you an opportunity to sell and then move in and then get your house fixed up or sold. So, all right. So we are talking about downsizing. The best way to downsize in Northern Nevada. The most complete video out there, and we're talking about step 5 of 8. And step 5 is preparing your house for sale. It's always one of the toughest things to do, and you need to have, obviously, we highly recommend that you get all your professionals up front. What do you see as the challenges, Elena, for preparing your house for sale?
There's some deferred maintenance that can add up for any homeowner and just feel overwhelming, but if you just grab a pre-inspection and give yourself a little priority list that you go over with your agent, because sometimes A home inspection can look and sound scary based on the bullet points that are pulled up. Some of them don't benefit you to repair, and some do. So that's why you want to make sure you get an experienced realtor on your team.
So we just had this happen 2 years ago. We had one of our favorite clients sell off the Mount Rose Estates and move down to a retirement community, and we talked her into getting a pre-home inspection. So a pre-home inspection is very simple. Is you hire a professional we have. They come in and you actually pay. It's your report, and they walk around your house and then they tell you at the end what's wrong. It's a really good summary of what you need to tackle. We see the challenge as a lot of people get older, that's deferred maintenance, or in her case, her husband passed, so she didn't quite keep up on things as well as, when they were both working on it.
Right.
So it helps figure out things that are big issues that can be dealt with before we list it, or we can offer credits or get it repaired. I would say it's a 50-50 mixture in our experience. Is there's about 50% of the items we get done with handymen or electricians or whatever, and then we, some of the stuff's minor. We say, you person can take care of that. Also, I have a handbook on how to sell your house. If you send me a message, direct message, or text me, or contact us, we have a whole book that lays out how to get your house ready. We have on here, consider hiring a professional organizer. We talked about that. The biggest challenge we see in this space is downsizing, is getting rid of belongings.
Yeah, it's hard. But clearing out that clutter can help a buyer envision themselves in your house. And ultimately, earn you more cash from your sale. So it's a big one to consider.
Well, not only just making it so that a new person can move in there and recognize, think about it and imagine with their stuff, but just keep in mind you got to move all that stuff.
Yeah, right.
And what we're experiencing, no, don't take this the wrong way, but when we also deal with people who've passed, if you don't get rid of it, whoever your heirs are, I can just tell you right now, they get a dumpster and they throw it all out.
Right.
And it's heartbreaking because there's pictures, a lot of stuff gets thrown out. And that's just what happens. So we highly recommend that you take it on and get it done yourself, because you have control at that point.
Right.
If you wait till your heirs do it, I'm just telling you, if they live in Boston, they're going to come here and hire a dump truck and get rid of it all.
Yeah.
So don't let that happen, because there's a lot of memories that should be shared with families, in our opinion, on that. Anything else for preparing your house? Well, there's a whole bunch of stuff here. I just was down to professional organizers. Top 3 things to consider when doing house prep. Obviously, these are some of the basics. You want to organize, declutter.
Yeah.
So we talked about downsizing, get rid of all the declutter.
And that key is, just like you said, you're in control if you get it done then.
Yes. And then the number one thing you can do that's the most cost effective, according to our notes here, in our experience, is a fresh coat of paint, interior and exterior. Don't let anybody else tell you otherwise.
Yeah,
it is a little bit more pricey now, but you're probably in the $2.75 to $3.50 inside and outside. So if you're a 1,000 square foot house, it's $2,700. It goes up from there. But I'm just telling you, if you want to make the biggest difference and not bankrupt yourself, that's the number one. Because a lot of people have houses that are 20 or 30 years and they've never been painted. A lot of faded damage to stucco just because over the years. I'm just telling you, it's the best thing you can do. Consider that, and it's a good time in the winter time to do that. Obviously, you want the house professionally cleaned. We have a lot of people who try and do that on their own, especially if you have a spouse or animals. It's a big task. It's not that much more money, and keep in mind you can probably write a lot of this stuff off. So it's well worth it to have someone come in for a day or two and get it cleaned.
Absolutely.
And it's a huge difference. Within that cleaning, it's a full house clean, but then you have to we highly recommend, you'd be surprised on how many top end homes that we visit every year. The windows are a mess.
Yeah.
Get the windows cleaned. It makes a huge difference, particularly if your house faces west. All the sun's coming in, your filthy windows, it takes away. And I can just tell you, people are like, wow, those windows are really dirty. So get that cleaned. Not very much money. Get the carpets cleaned. And the biggest thing, and I tell this to everyone, but they can't believe it, don't go overboard on fixing it.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
what's your opinion on that? Why?
Because typically someone's going to come in with their own taste and want to make a cosmetic change to their own taste anyhow. So if you as a seller remodel your whole kitchen and spend $60,000, it's very likely that the buyer's going to come in and change it anyhow, and it's not going to get you your money back.
Right. So, and then, yeah, and I'd rather you, if you have older carpets in a room or something, offer credit.
Yeah.
Because then someone can come in and make it themselves, and then or maybe they don't do anything.
Yeah.
We see a lot of people take credits that don't ever do anything.
Right.
So just keep that in mind. Huge expensive remodels before you list rarely pay you back dollar for dollar. The only thing that we really see paid back dollar for dollar, kitchen remodels and maybe master bathrooms, but even that's iffy. And even trying to find someone to do all that work, you're 6 months out.
Right.
So just keep in mind, if you want a reasonable timeline, get it painted. That's the best thing you can do.
Agreed.
That's tip number 5. So we're talking about downsizing the best way in Northern Nevada, and we're moving to step number 6. And this is where your agent steps in. So your agent has to be on top of it, and that's marketing tips to sell for top dollar. And it's the top 3 things you should do. So obviously we kind of talked about this. One is
organizing and decluttering.
Yeah.
Number 1.
Yeah. So we talked about that under preparing your house, but that should already be done. That's what you need to do, is just have it organized so it doesn't look cluttered. A lot of people have knickknacks. Get rid of all those. And you can either have, there are people out there that can help you with this, but oftentimes if you have a top-notch realtor, they'll have someone that'll come in and give you a free hour to make suggestions, or maybe they even want to stage it, but you want to make sure that happens first. We already talked about paint. Have it clean, obviously. We don't want to go overboard with repairs. And then the biggest thing is declutter. We talked about it a lot.
Yes.
Just to make sure that it's in a manner that someone walks in, make sure all the windows are open and the lighting's on, and it's just really ready for it.
From the marketing standpoint too, remember, it's again just making sure you're getting the most bang for your buck in that sale.
Right. The other thing is curb appeal. So we have a lot of people who have these big, especially if you live up Mount Rose Highway, you have an acre, a little overwhelmed with keeping up with it for years. So have someone come in, have it freshly cut, trimmed, get trees trimmed back so it looks presentable.
Yes.
Makes a huge difference.
It does.
And we've went through some houses in Saddlehorn recently where the front yards were not in the tip-top shape, and people are just like disappointed when they show up. Beautiful pictures, but then you show up, you're like, wow, it's not that great. Biggest thing you too is your realtor should be advising you on what you should be doing to get things that are big repairs versus not. That's a big challenge that we have is, while you want a top-notch fixed-up house, don't go overboard with fix and repairs, offer credits. And then staging. So the big thing about staging is it is very expensive and is usually not included in your realtor's fee. It's extra fee, and it can be tens, if not thousands of dollars. It all depends on your house, your circumstance, where you live.
It does. It's not very common in our market here to see staging done. I'm seeing digital staging. That's a new strategy, but typically focusing on the prior steps with the decluttering and cleaning will get the job done.
Yeah, and some tasteful. There are stagers out there that will come in and give you advice. Our model, anything probably under $2 million, my opinion. If you're under $2 million and it makes sense, use your own furniture. Usually people have furniture that they can use. If you get into the $2 to $7 million, your house is very expensive and elegant. It may behoove you to have someone come in and stage it, but it does cost a lot of money, and it costs every month that goes by. Selling those houses don't usually sell, so it can be a huge expense that is tacked on to your bottom dollar. But in some cases, it makes sense, and they do make a difference. And I do like the idea of digital staging is something else you can consider for rooms that are a little awkward. A lot of photographers now have AI that does a great job.
Yeah, it just gives you an idea of, what it might look like.
And particularly you find people who have vacant spaces that, hey, this is what it looks like before. It gives you, the buyer, some ideas. So anything about marketing tips?
Oh, lots of them. Good ones. Professional photos.
Yep. Oh,
Yep.
Step number 7. So this is like, we have your house ready now.
Yes.
We've gone through, we've talked to all the professionals, we've settled on staging, but now the rubber meets the road.
Go time.
It's go time, and this is when your realtor will shine. So the top 7 marketing things that you need to do or have a realtor that does for you. First,
Those professional photos, because if your realtor is using their iPhone to take the photos, you've made a mistake.
yeah. So professional photos, they're very inexpensive. And your realtor typically pays for those as part of his fee, his or her fee. We actually came across a new setup, which is the Matterhorn 3D, which is really cool. They have photographers now that stick a machine that does a 360 view and it stitches them all together. I like to call it the dollhouse. It's really cool feature because it's a link and any buyer can walk through your house. So they're not really surprised when they get there. The biggest thing we have issues with our buyers are they come across a house that does not look like anything like the pictures. So, that might be good in your case, but for most houses that we're selling, we do the Matterhorn 3D. It's really cool. Also, we do is a property address. So it usually has a discussion about the cool features of the house, why it's unique. Talks about the neighborhood. We do a lot of neighborhood tours, so there's a high likelihood that we've done a tour of your neighborhood. It has amenities. It talks about the location of all the stores, restaurants of the area, and then it includes like the Matterhorn and the videos. Another thing that we do is property tours, video tours, which is nice because then you get an idea of the Matterhorn, but you can also look around. And then the last one we like to do is
Custom floor plan for the property.
yeah, so a lot of people have floor plans available from when they bought the house. Some don't. So now with AI, a lot of the photographers can go in, measure all the rooms, and give you a very good floor plan so people can plan their furniture and size of rooms. So
I've had someone buy a house based on can their bed fit in the room before. So I know it seems silly, but those details really, really help.
So. And then step number 8, man, we see people make this mistake all the time. And we lose deals because of it, and then they usually call us back. And step number 8 of downsizing is you ultimately want to sell, so you need to really make sure that you're not overpricing your house. Particularly in this environment we're in right now where rates are higher. If you're overpricing your house, it's going to sit there, and then bad stigma.
Yes. People just tend to think that something might be wrong with your home if they've seen it sitting for sale for a long time.
Yeah, and just to be clear on the higher end homes, it's not unusual to have a house that's been on there for 6 months, 4 to 6 months. But if you're getting a 9 month to 12 months period, unless you're in a specialty area or a price range, I can just tell you that you will take far less than if you would have just priced it right.
Yes.
Because it's just it's an escalating descent down to the lowest price. And she was just talking about someone that was buying up an incline and took a way less price. It was sitting there forever and they got it way less. So the best thing is, the ultimate goal, know what your ultimate goal is. You want to get out. You want to move on. So price it correctly. You don't need every last single dollar.
Right. And calculate your carrying costs into that gamble too. That's part of knowing how long it's going to sit as you go over with your agent the estimated time that it could take to sell and make sure that you're planning for that.
So, all right. Well,
Okay.
thanks for coming in. If you have any questions about this, get going on this well in advance. Planning is the key. Don't come to us a month out and say, I want to sell my house. And particularly downsize because, the logistics are is this something you want to just get the professionals in and help you? And because it's not only taxing, it's very taxing emotionally.
Very.
And because now you're putting two of the most stressful things in your life, selling and buying, into one event. And one's enough, but when you start introducing two, especially if it's a contingent sale, just get in and get the professional to help you. We love the opportunity to earn your business, and for all of you to work with great people like Elena, because we work with the best people, and they'd be honored to help you out. So, if you have any questions, feel free to send us messages. Put questions below comments section, and please like our videos. We have a lot of great content like this, and we encourage you to check out our channel and click on any other videos that may catch your attention. Thanks again.